Right. We've been looking at a lot of oil tanker companies, Nordic American Tankers, DHT, double hull tankers, the EuroNav, Teekay Tankers. And now I want to take a look at a bunch of news that's coming out this week. What's happening in the oil industry? There's some big things happening, and this is a mirror image. It's yeah. Look, Rhino Ralph is backwards when I do the tabs. All right, let's get into what Russia's doing. What's up with these oil pipelines? And what's up with OPEC? This is Brian Lewis with MMT Investing, and things just changed. So here we go. Russia has a pipe laying vessel coming into the Baltic. That's the northern European Sea near Sweden and Germany for the Nord Stream 2. So this is a pipeline between Russia and Germany that they've been trying to do for quite a while, and there's a bunch of sanctions. So let's look at what's going on. So Baltic Sea, Nord Stream 2, pipeline from Russia to Germany, and here's Russia's pipe laying boat that is not supposed to be there because there are sanctions preventing this from happening. Russia's doing it anyways. And project, blah, 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 Baltic Sea. USA does not like this because that would make Europe too reliant on Russia for energy, whereas the US wants to export liquid natural gas, the LNG. This is an LNG pipeline, the liquefied natural gas. So this is a big conflict between US shale liquid natural gas producers and the Russian liquid natural gas. And Russia has finished up with a pipeline over and between Siberia and China. And now this boat is coming over here into the Baltic Sea to lay a bunch more pipelines across between Russia and Europe. And this is a huge, huge deal right now. And let's hop over to another. Okay, so this is the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and go to oilprice.com, and this is a really good article that I found. Gazprom. Gazprom is Russia's big pipeline company that's doing this Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Talking about, is this pipeline doomed to fail? Because the U.S. Treasury sanctioned Rosneft, which is the Russian national oil company. Okay, and this is the OPEC Plus agreement. I'll get into what OPEC Plus is versus what OPEC is. So this is what is probably what brought about the unexpectedly low pricing environment in March 2020, as this U.S. sanction on the Russian national oil company that's affecting these oil pipelines. And this is why Russia has basically disbanded OPEC Plus and is doing all of these things right now. It has to do with sanctions. It has to do with oil pipelines. And it has to do with who is delivering all of the liquid natural gas to Europe. Is it Russia or is it the U.S. shale? And that's what this big situation is about. This whole oil crash has to do with between Russia and the U.S. providing gas to Europe. And the Gazprom, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so Gazprom in Russia is working with Shell in Germany right now. And so Germany, there's a bunch of not only sanctions, but just laws inside of the European Union, from the UN, from the United States, limiting these gas pipelines. They've had one pipeline, the Nord Stream 1 pipeline from Russia to Germany has been there for a while, and it's had sanctions on it for the last several years, limiting how much liquefied natural gas that they can ship from Russia to Germany. And now Russia is right there violating sanctions and laying pipes to add two more entire lines. So basically, instead of 50% production on one line, they're looking to do full production on 3 lines, 6 times the amount of uh, oil from Russia to Europe. And then, yeah, I mean, you can go on oilprice.com and check out some of these oil articles that are really interesting. Let me go back up here and look at some things that they're talking about. Saudi tankers are coming to the United States and getting in line with all the other boats that are full of oil right now. So this is more of the contango situation. Trump could use a nuclear option to make Saudi pay for oil. This does not, that's not talking about nuclear weapons. The nuclear option he's just talking about sanctions, um, the death of US oil. So this entire situation that's happening now is making the shale fracking industry unprofitable, completely unprofitable. And then we've seen oil prices out throughout the end of this year being pegged low. We have contango for another month or two, and then low oil prices for the rest of this year. And just that alone, if Russia doesn't do anything else, is enough to collapse the U.S. shale industry. The U.S. government has decided not to bail out shale and exploration companies. I don't know if they're considering nationalizing them, but this is a huge, huge deal. And a lot of people don't realize, I mean, everyone knows the OPEC nations produce oil, but Russia and the US are 2 of the top oil producers in the whole world. So that is another thing to point out that most people don't realize. And I'll get into those in another article over here. Some metal that is whatever. Okay, the oil nations on the brink of collapse. So yeah, basically every oil country except for Russia and Saudi Arabia is going to be in trouble right now because Russia and Saudi have the ability to undercut everyone else in the world on prices and overproduce. And the US industry is one of the biggest ones that's in threat because shale is going to be completely unprofitable in this situation. Let's hit another one. Okay, so this is the Nord Stream. You can see here, Nord Stream used to be called the North Transgas or the North European Gas Pipeline. Goes from Russia at Vyborg, which is over here by Finland, and it goes to Greifswald here, which is in Germany, near Sweden and Denmark on the north in the Baltic Sea. It's kind of near Berlin. So this is the Nord Stream 1 pipeline here is the one that has been there for, I think it's about 10 years. Yeah, 2011, like 9 years. And then the Nord Stream 2 is, where's the town? Oh well, anyways, the Nord Stream 2 is just gonna start down here on the south side of this bay and go to the same place. But they're looking at like 2 more pipelines. They just have 1 now. And as we saw, that boat that's not supposed to be there against sanctions is getting ready to lay these pipes and finish this project. And Germany is working with Russia on this. And Germany and Russia have both stockpiled a huge amount of gold. So they're prepared in case the dollar becomes a bad situation to trade oil and gold, which is a huge deal. And so Nord Stream 1, let's see. And this is just Wikipedia. I mean, you can look this stuff up on Wikipedia. But here's the Nord Stream 2. Underwater. Well, so yeah, so it's Gazprom is the Russian company, Royal Dutch Shell, and is working in Germany. And so, oh yeah, so here's sanctions here. So Richard Grinnell was threatening sanctions in 2019, and then the 2020 year Authorization Act for Fiscal National Defense Authorization Act for 2020 has sanctions on Nord Stream 2, and that is kind of what put Russia in the situation of doing the things that it's doing right now. And Putin said that he is trying to finish Nord Stream 2 by the end of this year. or the first quarter of next year. And Germany does not also like the US sanctions that are on right now. So that's what's happening right now. Oh, this line's following me. Okay, so that's pretty much the Nord Stream 2 situation with Russia right now and sanctions and why the oil prices are so low and who's involved. It has a whole lot to do with Russia. And let's go to the next article about OPEC, because what Russia did was a huge move in the OPEC. And okay, so U.S. sanctions have been slowing all of this stuff for the last 10 years or something, and Russia and Germany are trying to get this thing done now. So this is, let's see, don't want it to mention the name of the health situation. You can't say that on YouTube. Yeah, okay, so same stuff. Just talking about Germany and Russia trying to finish the pipeline. And then here's OPEC on Wikipedia. If you don't know, OPEC is the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, and it was founded by some Middle Eastern companies that you cannot mention on YouTube, and including, and also Venezuela was one of the top ones. So, and Kuwait and Saudi are allowed to say on YouTube, but so yeah, so this is OPEC. It's the oil producing countries in the Middle East and Venezuela and African countries for the most part, and it's headed in Vienna, Austria. And let me be careful scrolling down here and try to avoid popping up countries I'm not allowed to say on YouTube. Okay, so here's the history section. I just blacked out most of the text in the history section. You can go on Wikipedia and look up OPEC. This is not any kind of secret or anything, but you can see post World War II, and then the 60s, OPEC's getting founded, and then we get oil embargoes and sieges and crises and disruptions. There's all kinds of conflict and all kinds of crises connected with OPEC, and it has a whole lot to do with the U.S. dollar, the euro dollar international banking system, and uh, you can see here, like, pumps close, people have to burn wood because they don't have oil. And then, yeah, you can see here's some financial crises and things like that are really tightly tied to OPEC and the crude prices. So you can see the prices generally go up at the beginning of a bubble and they crash during a crisis on the backside of a bubble. And here's the financial crisis was a big drop in OPEC, and we get our euro dollar kind of fluctuations here. Let me scroll down more carefully here again. All right, so here's the list of the OPEC countries that are currently in the group, the OPEC cartel. It's called a cartel, which sounds bad, but it just means group. So several Middle Eastern countries here that I'm not allowed to mention, and then we got Algeria, Angola, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Libya, Nigeria, Republic of Congo, Saudis, Emirates, Venezuela, and Venezuela is one of the big ones since the beginning. And all of this stuff that's happening in Venezuela recently has very much to do with OPEC. This is an oil situation in Venezuela, and it's an oil situation right now between Russia and Europe and the U.S. shale. And Venezuela is actually has some of the biggest known reserves of any of the OPEC countries, along with Saudi. And then also U.S. and Russia are top oil producers, top world oil producers, which it doesn't say here. But these are the OPEC nations. So when you're talking about OPEC, it's these countries, these oil producing countries. And they agree on how much oil to produce, and it's relative to the dollar. Oil is priced in dollars. That's the petrodollar, the euro dollar system, pricing oil in dollars. And that is the big deal with OPEC, is controlling the supply and pricing all the oil in dollars and trying to keep the dollar stable. And there's a couple countries here, Ecuador, Indonesia, Qatar, that dropped out of OPEC recently. And here's OPEC Plus. So here's the big one here is OPEC Plus is led by Russia, and these are not OPEC members. These are 10 more oil exporting countries led by Russia. O to OPEC Plus cartel. It's funny, the word cartel. Um, so this is just fixing the global crude prices and trying to control production. So that's a supply and demand thing on oil that has a lot to do with the US dollar and the price of oil. And so Russia has been working with the US and the UN and the EU and controlling oil supply and working with OPEC for a while. This says 2016. And now Russia has basically disbanded OPEC Plus and said they're just going to pump oil and drop the prices. That's what's going on right now since this crash started. And this is a huge deal. The oil contango, while the oil tankers are oversupplied with oil right now. So this is a really important thing to follow. Like, what is Russia actually doing? And then Saudi Arabia and Russia are really the only two countries that look to be okay after this situation. It's going to hurt everyone else, and then they should be able to uh, sort of they could possibly corner the oil market. And the whole thing with oil being priced in dollars is always a big situation. The last country that was trying to price oil outside of US dollars was Venezuela. They're trying to price oil in euros and in yen and stuff like that, and that did not turn out very well. Um, but Russia is making some power moves right now, and yeah, the Vienna Group. That's pretty much the same countries listed here. Um, just another non-OPEC kind of group where they do meetings. So that's OPEC. Those are the OPEC countries. That's the oil. And I'll get to, I think I have one or two more articles to take a look at here. Nope, nope, that's it. This is just the boat, the Russian boat that's going to lay pipes, even though sanctions are telling them not to do that. Okay, so I should have pulled up an oil contango chart. So I saw some charts the other day about the oil contango timeline and the oversupply situation, and it looks like that there's going to be oversupply beyond the amount of storage available, almost out until September of this year. And the contango looks like another maybe month and a half, 2 months, something like that, where the current prices are lower than the futures prices. And then we should get up to a point where it's down for the rest of the year, but it's not. But it should be on a high price, headed down for the rest of the year, out a couple months from now. But as for right now, there's way more oil than storage, and the uh, OPEC and Russia and everything just they're trying to meet, and Russia's like okay, and everyone's kind of agreeing to drop the oil production by like 20%. And that is what people are saying has caused a down movement in the oil tanker companies recently. Is that all the OPEC nations and the OPEC plus nations that have not been agreeing to do anything recently have agreed to drop production by 20% starting now. And that is probably fake news to some degree because that's just the amount of oil they're going to produce anyway. And I don't think that really changes any of the outlook. Like that doesn't change any of the contango charts or the futures charts or any of the supply charts. So it didn't change anything at all. So I don't think that's really really news at all. But yeah, it looks like 2 months of contango and then another couple months of oil oversupply beyond the storage, and then after that, uh, there should be available storage, and the crude tankers are still going to be full of oil and have full work and all of that. And so this is a situation out to the end of this year, and we'll have to, I mean, definitely have to follow what's going on here and see if, Russia finishes these pipelines I mean, they were only about a month away from finishing them when the U.S. put all the sanctions on, and so I mean, I guess it's possible for them to finish them right now. It looks like they're working on it, and that would be a huge blow to the U.S. shale and fracking and liquefied natural gas, and then yeah, so yeah, we just have to kind of follow it. I've been listening to Putin over the last few years talk about the international monetary system, talking about oil and things like that. He says a lot of interesting things. He says that the U.S. dollar, like he's not leaving the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar is leaving Russia, and he says that you know people think that America will last forever, and people always think that empires will never fall, but they do, and Russia needs to be ready. Uh, so Russia has been stockpiling gold. They did a ton of research on using Bitcoin as a reserve asset, and they didn't choose Bitcoin. They chose gold, and now this oil whole thing is coming up, and Russia has politely asked the UN and the US to lift sanctions right when they sort of backed out of the OPEC Plus thing, and now they have just done it again. Last week they're asking to have their sanctions lifted again, and the UN and US have said no immediately both times. And now they're kind of asking Italy to be like, hey, talk about the health situation and see if you can get them to change their mind just based on the world health situation. And so Russia is using this to try to get sanctions lifted, and I don't expect them to really lighten up too much on this. Like this is their ace in the hole right now as far as getting sanctions lifted and having some dominance in the oil industry, which they have been working on for a while. So this is a huge, huge thing, and it's not just shale and Russia. I mean, this is the entire U.S. worldwide dollar system. The petrodollar, uh, the euro dollar, the petrodollar has a whole lot to do with oil and oil prices, and we always see this crazy volatility and conflict when recessions are happening. So that's what we're looking at, and that is not investment advice. I don't think I introduced myself or anything. This is Brian Lewis with MMT Investing. Please hit the like button to help me out with the YouTube algorithm. And yeah, I guess I might get into some more oil tanker videos. Today is going to be a huge day in the stock market. I definitely need to take a look at the stock market right now because it looks like I saw some pre-market stuff a while ago, and it looked like it gapped down over the weekend. Um, and we want to see if this is going to be Bloody Monday. Oh no, is it going to be a bloodbath today, or are we just going to get a back test of some previous levels? And today should be a really interesting day of trading and an interesting international everything. And so much stuff is going on right now. So yeah, that'll do it for OPEC and Russia and the oil and the contango, the dates, and get back into the oil charts and the oil tanker charts and that sort of thing. With this in mind, and just try to get the best outlook we can on what's going on, and yeah, and make these trades coming up because there's going to be some really the next 2 weeks should be absolutely crazy in the stock market, and lots of swing trading opportunities and lots of big news about to come out. So yeah, so happy trading.